This is the best. I have a belt sander. I've mounted it upside down so that I can work on pieces of wood so that it goes really fast. You go like this instead of having to clamp the wood down and use the belt sander on top of them. But the belts fill up with sawdust and then they don't do as good of a job. So what I've done here is I got myself a big belt sander eraser. It's like an art eraser, one of those art gum things. And you just lay it on there and it just cleans all the sawdust out. It's a bit tacky, so look. Is that cool? Wouldn't it be great if you could shave your legs that fast? They should invent that. Okay, so the big reason that I've got all these belts out and there's sanding equipment everywhere is because I'm doing a heavy sanding and belting kind of a project today, which is an ottoman, a footstool. See? This is my prototype. It's huge. It came out so big, so I have to try it again, only make it a little bit more, modest in size. What the secret is to this, to making it look cool, though, I've discovered, is tapering the legs. See how pretty they look? Otherwise they would look really chunky with just giant square legs. And it's biscuit joined. That's a new thing that I'm trying, and it's so fun. What it is you just take a little biscuit, this is called a biscuit, and you make a little slot for it, like a happy face slot here, and another one here, and then the biscuit just sits there, and you glue it all together, and it really holds tight, like tighter than anything else, like nails or screws or anything. These biscuits they're hot. And then on the bottom, I've only done two of the blocks so far, but these blocks have screws in them that screw the top to the, so there's a bit of upholstery and everything. So this is definitely made from hardwood, so I got myself some more maple to start over, and I'm making it shorter, as I mentioned. So I'm going with like 9.5-inch legs. But the first thing to do is take your wood and figure out which are the prettiest corners, because sometimes the wood looks bad. Like this board is all split. I'll probably have to replace that. But for now, see that side's really pretty, so I want to show that side to the world. So I'm going to put that there and find out all the prettiest corners so that the wood looks really good. And then I'm going to mark each of those corners with a little O and a square, so I know which corner to taper to. And then I'm going to mark the actual, okay, you guys sit there. So this will be my first leg, right? So I know that this is the skinny bottom of a leg. So I'm going to take the apron, which is this part, the wood that I'm going to be using for the apron, and put the leg on it the way it's going to look. Now, which is my outside corner? Outside corner. It's going to be there. Hold on a second. Okay, so I know my taper has to start right about here. So I'm just going to mark that where the taper is supposed to start. And then, just to be safe, I'm going to mark that very same line all around the outside edge of my little leg here, so that I don't get confused. Okay, now looking again, that's my outside corner, so I'm going to be, and this is my inside corner, so I'm tapering just these two edges are going to be what's tapered. This stays straight. So I want to taper from here. I set this in an inch, right? I guess I better measure that to make sure it's right. Guess I better measure it. Ever try building anything without ever using a tape measure? I have. And then later you say to people, yeah, it looks pretty good, but it would have been a lot better if I'd used a tape measure. Just stuff like that makes you feel like, kind of a maverick. And while that's not always an admirable feeling, it gets you ahead in life in your own mind. Okay, look. See, that's my taper. Then I want to do the same thing, make the same mark on this side, because I'm going to be sticking this in a vise and working from both sides of the wood. Okay, so I'll just finish marking this up. Okay, so I'm ready to take my first bit of wood off. So I'll stick this in a vise. And now it's time to power plane. Now, normally you plane with the grain like this, but in this case I have a lot more material to remove from this end, so I'm going to go against the grain. It's a bit of a bumpy ride, but it works really well. This is what I'm looking for.
Power tools are really fast, and that's good if you don't have much time to work on your projects. But if you do have time, you can accomplish just as much with hand tools. It's kind of like Stephen Wright said, everywhere is walking distance if you have the time.
Okay, so that's going to be about right. Now I'm just going to take it over and start sanding it. And I'll start with a really aggressive, just a second, there. I'll start with a really aggressive piece of sandpaper. This is 40 grit, so it's got huge chunks of sand, and it's going to take a lot of the roughness out. Look at that, isn't that going to be pretty? Okay, so I've done both sides, and look, of course I marked it wrong. It's going to happen to you. You really have to think it through. So I marked it wrongly, and then I had to scratch at the marks. So just try to keep your wits about you. Okay, so this is mounted upside down, which is great, because it's a lot easier than clamping the board and then having to use the belt sander on top of it. I'm going to want to, hold on a second, I'm going to want to work with this until I've gotten rid of all these little chips and divots that are from the planing. So I'm going to work down from 40, and then I'm going to go to 80 grit, and then I'm going to go to 100, and then I'm going to go to 120, and then I'm going to probably finish off with around 220. So it's going to be baby smooth. The only thing that's tricky about this sanding thing is rounding over the corners, because they're a little bit sharp right now. So to do that, I'll just show you really quickly. You just roll the board, and you do this a little bit later on, but I want to show it to you now. Like that, and then you get a soft corner, but there's no way I'm ready for that yet because I got all these binks and dinks to get out. Binks and dinks? All right, I got it pretty smooth just with the belt sander, but I'm just, you know, I'm tweaking it really by hand. Look how sweet and pretty. See that taper? It's very, very smooth and nice. Now I wanted to put a clear finish on it, but with a bit of color in it. But I don't like oil-based stains because they stink and they give you a headache and they pollute the air. So I came up with an alternative. Also, you know, water-based stains are available, but they tend to be a bit milky and opaque, and they just kind of sit on top of the wood, and the natural beauty of the wood doesn't come through. So what I did was I took some shellac that I mixed from the dry form, and you just mix it with some denatured alcohol or methyl hydrate, and you get this beautiful stuff. Then I poured in a little bit of aniline stain, which is just comes in powder form, and it turned this beautiful peacock blue. Look at that color, isn't that beautiful? And look what it does to the wood. Instead of it being milky and opaque, it's really shiny and beautiful, and you can see the iridescent quality of the maple. So, only trick is, it evaporates really fast, depending on the humidity. If you've got a rainy day, this is a kind of rainy day, it dries a little bit slower. So, it's like applying nail polish. You do it in beautiful overlapping long strokes because it's going to dry quickly. So, it's like this. And the only tricky part is it tends to pool around the corners. So you have to pretend there are no corners. Just go around that leg like the dickens and keep turning it. Now I'm going to end up with finger marks up at the top, so I should have probably thought about that. And I'm gonna put 2 coats on the outside and 1 coat on the inside to just give it a little bit more depth. Yeah, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble here, people. Where was I? Ah! Okay. There. See, now it's almost started to dry, so I'm gonna have to do a bit of finessing here. If you do get a mark on the corner where it's globbing up a little bit, just take a sponge brush and remove a bit of it like this. Cool. Now, once I have this painted and, oops, ooh, I'm really overlapping there. Once I have this all finished though, we'll go to actually assembling the ottoman, and that's where it gets really cool. There we go. Wipe your little mouth. That's how this is gonna make you feel, like you got the tight buns of a superhero. That's what this is gonna do for you. This is a biscuit joiner. I was kind of waxing poetic about it earlier, and that's not gonna stop. This is my little ottoman. It's coming along, but I'm at the point where it needs to be joined together somehow. So I've got the magical biscuit joiner. So here's the deal. I painted the inside of the legs with 1 coat of that turquoise stuff, and the outside with 2 coats, just to give it a bit of interest to the eye. But the one thing I didn't bargain for is that this wood is considerably redder than the kind of whiter wood of the apron. So I got a true turquoise on the white wood and a kind of green color happening on the legs. So that's just something to look out for. And I'm just going with it because, you know, the sea changes colors with different depths, and that's kind of a sea color, so, you know, whatever. So here's this board that I've clamped down. I've marked the center of it, bingo, right down the middle. I'm gonna take my magical joiner. I'm gonna place the divot in the plate right along that center mark. And then I'm gonna hold that plate down. The blade's way down low, don't worry, nothing will happen, that's bad. And then I just turn on the ignition. What I got there was a perfect slot that perfectly fits a perfectly not good slot. You know, look at that. You see, I was doing one of the legs, so I had it adjusted down a bit. So now I have to just adjust. Well, the good thing is this thing is adjustable. But look what happened. See, the slot should go in the middle of the apron, but it should go slightly off center on the leg because you want this nice little reveal. So I'll just make the proper adjustment on that. This isn't going to hurt anything. It's just an extra slot. It's like having an extra nostril that you don't really use, but it's there just in case. So I'll just fix that. So I just adjust it. It's an adjustment thing, really. It's not well adjusted. Okay, so there.
With power tools, you can make more projects more often at 10 times the speed. But one thing I'm discovering is that it's often easier to engage the motor of a power tool than it is to engage, say, your brain. Therefore, you can make more mistakes more often at 10 times the speed.
Okay, so I have some kind of a disease that makes you drop things. Look, there's that slot. That's the new one. This is this double slot where I had to add one. And they go together beautifully like this, and then I'll glue them. But what's really easy to do if you're, you know, not quite on the mark today is get this a bit too low, okay? So you have to, see that pencil mark where I marked the center? You have to mark the same mark on the leg so that you can center it. It's complicated, but it's really not. You just have to go slowly. So I've marked the mark here, all right? And I've set this baby down a bit so that I can get that nice reveal. And then off I go again. And it's really good to do all the legs at once because they're set for that special extra 1/4 of an inch reveal, and then do all of these apron pieces at once. That way you don't have to keep going back and forth. All right, so that's gonna take a biscuit, and it's gonna join up to one of these guys. Oh, I already had the biscuit in. There. See, like that. Okay, so I gotta do all the biscuits on all the legs and then all the biscuits on all the aprons, and then I'm gonna glue this baby together. Then we're gonna put some upholstery factor on the top of it so that it looks, you know, swish. So that's got one there.
While I think it's important to look back on life occasionally and assess the progress you've made, some people disagree. Like baseball legend Satchel Paige, who said, "Don't look back. Something may be gaining on you."
I have my ottoman almost done. I glued it together, and now I'm putting these blocks in around the corners. And the sole purpose of these blocks is to screw the plywood to, you know, because we're going to upholster the surface. So these are going to hold the top down. It's just a block of wood cut with two 45-degree angles. And then you take a drill bit and you drill through here and here, because this thing is going to be placed right against the wood like this. But then you have to countersink the screw. So just take a larger drill bit like this size and make a bigger hole. Also, the screw should be able to go through easily because it's supposed to suck into the side. So you don't want it to just be threading into that hole. You'll see what I mean when you're doing it. Okay, so I'm going to clamp this here and then just use a drill bit to go into the hardwood so that these little screws have a place to thread into. If I was just making this out of pine, I wouldn't have to do that. All right, so that's pretty good right there. Okay, so now the upholstery part of it, it's not my exact specialty, but here goes nothing. A piece of plywood that matches the exact dimensions of the thing, which is 14.5, I think, by 14.5, and a piece of foam. And the easiest way to cut the foam is to use just a bread knife to cut around it, and cut the foam about 1/4 of an inch bigger on all sides than the piece of plywood so that you don't see any nasty little jagged edges. And you'll need a staple gun. And, okay, so I put this here. Yeah, it's really tall foam. Oh well. Okay, so look, you first have to get one edge secure. So you just staple it down. Then the other edge, oh, you see I moved it already, darn it. Okay, so I'll get this edge secure and really tight. And then I'm gonna flip it over. Oops. Then this edge, and then I just gonna miter the corners as though I'm making my bed, which like I ever bother to do that, but I was trained to do it by my long-suffering mother. And then, okay, so that's good enough for now, but you can see what happens at the corners is a lot of material builds up. So it starts out like a Christmas present or a birthday present that you're wrapping. Then you take one little extra tuck there and fold it up straight so that it matches. Like this. Okay, okay. See, I'm just gonna break into a cold sweat because I am one of the worst present wrappers I even know. And I know a lot of people. Okay, so you get the idea. Okay, so I'm gonna finish this and we'll put the whole thing together. I wanna do this in private, really. Ready? Ah, that's a nice little ottoman. Look, the material is even centered, sort of, and it's really solid, okay? And especially if all four legs are on the ground. That's good, okay, that's gonna look good. It looks really pretty and it's not that hard, right? Now, there's a textile artist named Saskia Wassing Shepard, and she builds ottomans. It's her passion, and you'll soon see why. Look at these babies. Is that not the most stunning ottoman you've ever seen? Look at that. She has a whimsical feeling with these that I just love. And she does all her own embroidery, and she freehands it on her sewing machine. So that's an option that you might want to try. And they're made from cotton velvet. And she actually studied at the Glasgow School of Art. So she's got a bit of a head start on the rest of us, but I just think these are gorgeous and nice bright colors too. She rocks. It helps to have these kinds of inspiring examples when you're thinking of your own still sample. So Have fun making this, and I really recommend the biscuit joining way of life.
When I first wanted to make an ottoman, I was really squeamish about using the biscuit joiner. But the idea that you can cut up a bit of lumber and reassemble it into any piece of furniture you need, well, that's just hot. When you look back a year from now, you'll either agree or disagree, but you'll have more furniture.